Hi guys, we're here for our Bible in a Year Challenge reading for October 28th and 29th. For October 28th, we're going to read from Jeremiah 41 through 42, Proverbs 5, and Revelation 17. So Jeremiah chapter 41, the murder of Gedaliah. But in mid-autumn, Ishmael, son of Nethaniah and grandson of Elishama, who was a member of the royal family, arrived in Mizpah accompanied by 10 men. Gedaliah invited them to dinner. While they were eating, Ishmael and his 10 men suddenly drew their swords and killed Gedaliah, whom the king of Babylon had appointed governor. Then they went out and slaughtered all the Judean officials and Babylonian soldiers who were with Gedaliah at Mizpah. The next day, before anyone had heard about Gedaliah's murder, 80 men arrived from Shechem, Shiloh, and Samaria. They had come to worship at the temple of the Lord. They had shaved up their beards, torn their clothes, and cut themselves, and brought along grain offerings and incense. Ishmael left Mizpah to meet them, weeping as he went. When he reached them, he said, "Oh, come and see what has happened to Gedaliah." But as soon as they were all inside the town, Ishmael and his men killed all but 10 of them and threw their bodies into a cistern. The other 10 had talked Ishmael into letting them go by promising to bring him their stores of wheat, barley, oil, and honey that they had hidden away. The cistern where Ishmael dumped the bodies of the men he murdered was the large one made by King Asa when he fortified Mizpah to protect himself against King Baasha of Israel. Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, filled it with corpses. Ishmael made captives of the king's daughters and the other people who had been left under Gedaliah's care in Mizpah by Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard. Taking them with him, he started back toward the land of Ammon. But when Johanan, son of Kareah, and the rest of the guerrilla leaders heard what Ishmael had done, they took all their men and set out to stop him. They caught up with him at the pool near Gibeon. The people Ishmael had captured shouted for joy when they saw Johanan and his men. And all the captives from Mizpah escaped and began to help Johanan. Meanwhile, Ishmael and 8 of his men escaped from Johanan into the land of Ammon. Then Johanan, son of Kareah, and his officers led away all the people they had rescued. Warriors, women, children, and palace officials. They took them all to the village of Gereth Kimham, near Bethlehem, where they prepared to leave for Egypt. They were afraid of what the Babylonians would do when they heard that Ishmael had killed Gedaliah, the governor appointed by the Babylonian king. In chapter 42, warning to stay in Judah. Then all the army officers, including Johanan, son of Kareah, and Gezaniah, son of Hashiah, and all the people from the least to the greatest, approached Jeremiah the prophet. They said, "Please pray to the Lord your God for us. As you know, we are only a tiny remnant compared to what we were before. Beg the Lord your God to show us what to do and where to go." "All right," Jeremiah replied. "I will pray to the Lord your God, and I will tell you everything he says. I will hide nothing from you." Then they said to Jeremiah, "May the Lord your God be a faithful witness against us if we refuse to obey whatever he tells us to do. Whether we like it or not, we will obey the Lord our God, to whom we sent you with our plea. For if we obey him, everything will turn out well for us." 10 days later, the Lord gave this reply to Jeremiah. So he called for Johanan, son of Kareah, and the army officers, and for all the people from the least to the greatest. He said to them, "You sent me to the Lord, the God of Israel, with your request." And this is his reply: "Stay here in this land. If you do, I will build you up and not tear you down. I will plant you and not uproot you. For I am sorry for all the punishment I have had to bring upon you. Do not fear the king of Babylon any more, says the Lord. For I am with you and will save you and rescue you from his power. I will be merciful to you by making him kind, so he will let you stay here in your land. But if you refuse to obey the Lord your God and say, 'We will not stay here,' and if you insist on going to live in Egypt, where you think you'll be free from war, famine, and alarms, then this is what the Lord says to the remnant of Judah. The Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says, if you insist on going to Egypt, the war and famine you fear will follow close behind you, and you will die there. This is the fate awaiting every one of you who insists on going to live in Egypt. Yes, you will die from war, famine, and disease. None of you will escape from the disaster I will bring upon you there. For the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says, just as my anger and fury were poured out on the people of Jerusalem, so they will be poured out on you when you enter Egypt. You will become an object of damnation, horror, cursing, and mockery, and you will never see your homeland again. Listen, you remnant of Judah. The Lord has told you, do not go to Egypt. Don't forget this warning I have given you today. For you were deceitful when you sent me to pray to the Lord your God for you, saying, just tell us what the Lord our God says, and we will do it. And today I've told you exactly what he said, but you will not obey the Lord your God any better now than you have in the past. So you can be assured that you will die from war, famine, and disease in Egypt, where you insist on going. In Proverbs 5. Avoid immoral women. My son, pay attention to my wisdom. Listen carefully to my wise counsel. Then you will learn to discreet and will store up knowledge. You will learn to be discreet and will store up knowledge. The lips of an immoral woman are as sweet as honey, but her mouth is smoother than oil. But the result is as bitter as poison, sharp as a double-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps lead straight to the grave, for she does not care about the path to life. She staggers down a crooked trail and doesn't even realize where it leads. So now, my sons, listen to me. Never stray from what I'm about to say. Run from her. Don't go near the door of her house. If you do, you will lose your honor and hand over to merciless people everything you have achieved in life. Strangers will obtain your wealth, and someone else will enjoy the fruit of your labor. Afterward, you will groan in anguish when disease consumes your body, and you will say, "How I hated discipline! If only I had not demanded my own way. Oh, why didn't I listen to my teachers? Why didn't I pay attention to those who gave me instruction? I have come to the brink of utter ruin, and now I must face public disgrace. Drink water from your own well. Share your love only with your wife. Why spill the water of your springs in public, having sex with just anyone? You should reserve it for yourselves. Don't share it with strangers. Let your wife be a fountain of blessings for you. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. She is a loving doe, a graceful deer. Let her breast satisfy you always. May you always be captivated by her love. Why be captivated, my son, with an immoral woman, or embrace the breasts of an adulterous woman? For the Lord sees clearly what a man does, examining every path he takes. An evil man is held captive by his own sins. They are ropes that catch and hold him. He will die for lack of self-control. He will be lost because of his incredible folly. And Revelation 17. The Great Prostitute. One of the 7 angels who had poured out the 7 bowls came over and spoke to me. "Come with me," he said, "and I will show you the judgment that is going to come on the great prostitute, who sits on many waters. The rulers of the world have had immoral relations with her, and the people who belong to this world have been made drunk by the wine of her immorality." So the angel took me in spirit into the wilderness. There I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that had 7 heads and 10 horns, written all over with blasphemies against God. The woman wore purple and scarlet clothing and beautiful jewelry made of gold and precious gems and pearls. She held in her hand a gold goblet full of obscenities and the impurities of her immorality. A mysterious name was written on her forehead: Babylon the Great, mother of all prostitutes and obscenities in the world. I could see that she was drunk with the blood of God's holy people who were witnesses for Jesus. I stared at her completely amazed. "Why are you so amazed?" the angel asked. "I will tell you the mystery of this woman and of the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast you saw was alive but isn't now, and yet he will soon come up out of the bottomless pit and go to eternal destruction. And the people who belong to this world, whose names were not written in the book of life from before the world began, will be amazed at the reappearance of this beast who had died. And now understand this: the 7 heads of the beast represent the 7 hills of the city where this woman rules. They also represent 7 kings. 5 kings have already fallen, the 6th now reigns, and the 7th is yet to come. But his reign will be brief. The scarlet beast that was alive and then died is the 8th king. He is like the other 7, and he too will go to his doom. His 10 horns are 10 kings who have not yet risen to power. They will be appointed to their kingdoms for one brief moment to reign with the beast. They will all agree to give their power and authority to him. Together they will wage war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will defeat them because he is Lord over all lords and King over all kings. And his people are the called and chosen and faithful ones. And the angel said to me, "The waters where the prostitute is sitting represent masses of people of every nation and language. The scarlet beast and his 10 horns, which represent 10 kings who will reign with him, all hate the prostitute. They will strip her naked, eat her flesh, and burn her remains with fire. For God has put a plan into their minds, and that a plan that will carry out his purpose. They will mutually agree to give their authority to the scarlet beast, and so the words of God will be fulfilled. And this woman you saw in your vision represents the great city that rules over the kings of the earth." Okay, and then for October 29th, it says, "Reflect on God's wisdom." See you next time.